Hello everyone! Today, let's learn together from the background to the consequences of the two atomic bombs in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Historical background. By 1945, World War II was nearing its end. In Europe, the Allies defeated Nazi Germany after the fall of Berlin, May 8, 1945. In the Pacific Theater, Japan, though isolated and weakened, continued to resist fiercely. Its navy and air force were nearly destroyed, and its industry lay in ruins. However, Japanese military leaders clung to the bushido, samurai, spirit, mobilizing civilians for a final suicidal defense. The Ketsu-Go plan aimed to deploy 28 million civilians, armed with primitive weapons, and 3 million overseas troops, for example in Manchuria, to inflict massive casualties on Allied forces during a potential invasion. For the U.S., Operation Downfall, a two-phase invasion, Olympic and Coronet, predicted 350,000 to 1.2 million Allied casualties. However, the successful Trinity atomic bomb test, July 16, 1945, shifted strategies. President Truman approved using nuclear weapons to force Japan's surrender and avoid a costly ground invasion. Decision to drop the bombs and targets. On July 26, 1945, the Potsdam Declaration demanded Japan's unconditional surrender. Japan's government, divided internally, rejected the ultimatum. Hardline militarists believed U.S. public opinion would crumble under heavy losses, forcing negotiations. Faced with Japan's defiance, the U.S. proceeded with atomic strikes. A target selection committee prioritized psychological impact and global demonstration of power. Initial targets included Kyoto, cultural capital, and Hiroshima, military hub. Kyoto was later removed due to its historical significance, replaced by Nagasaki. Hiroshima was chosen for its military infrastructure, lack of Allied helps, and minimal prior bombing damage. The Hiroshima Tragedy, August 6, 1945. At 8:15 a.m., the B-29 Enola Gay dropped Little Boy, equivalent to 13,000 tons of TNT, over Hiroshima. Detonating 600 meters above ground, the bomb destroyed 90% of buildings within a 1.6 kilometers radius, killing 90,000 instantly. By December 1945, fatalities rose to 140,000 due to radiation and injuries. The city became a zone of death, with thousands more succumbing to long-term effects over decades. Nagasaki and the surrender turning point. August 9, 1945. 3 days later, the B-29 Boxcar released Fat Man, 21,000 tons of TNT, over Nagasaki. Poor weather shifted the blast away from the city center, but it still killed 70,000 people and devastated 3.2 square kilometers. That same day, the Soviet Union declared war and invaded Japanese-held Manchuria, crushing the Guangdong army. Under this dual pressure, Emperor Hirohito intervened, urging the Supreme War Council to surrender on the condition of preserving the imperial institution. On August 14th, a militarist coup attempt failed to block the surrender. On August 15th, Hirohito broadcast his surrender announcement nationwide. On September 2nd, 1945, Japan formally surrendered aboard the USS Missouri, ending World War II. Ethical controversies and historical legacy. The bombings sparked enduring debates. 1. Support. The bombs ended the war swiftly, avoiding massive casualties from a land invasion, estimated 267,000 to 1.2 million Allied troops and millions of Japanese civilians. They curtailed Soviet expansion in Asia and halted Japan's atrocities across occupied territories, 200,000 Asian civilians dying monthly. 2. Opposition. Scientists Albert Einstein, Leo Szilard, and U.S. generals Eisenhower, MacArthur argued Japan was already near surrender, making the bombs unnecessary and immoral. Targeting civilians violated international law and ignited a nuclear arms race. Professor Peter Kuznick, American University, labeled it a crime against humanity. Historians like Gar Alperovitz claimed the U.S. aimed to intimidate the Soviet Union, not just defeat Japan. Long-term consequences. Over 160,000 died immediately, with hundreds of thousands of Hibakusha, atomic bomb survivors, perishing gradually from radiation. By 2023, 118,935 hibakusha remained alive in Japan. Memorials in Hiroshima and Nagasaki stand as warnings of nuclear annihilation. The bombings also marked the start of the nuclear age, exposing humanity to existential risks. Conclusion: the atomic bombings altered the course of war and global history. They remain symbols of both war-ending power and the horrors of mass destruction. The question, did the US have alternatives, continues to fuel debate, reminding humanity to weigh ethics and strategy in critical decisions. The legacy of Hiroshima and Nagasaki endures as a plea for peace and a caution against repeating history's darkest chapters.